I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
I do want to ask a question, just kind of pivoting back to the story.
All of man. What's up?
Yeah, just kind of pivoting to this back to the story a little bit. So like, all right, cool. We got the first contract. We started building up our clientele and stuff from there. So like, what is the next progression for you? Are we now personally flipping homes? Are you now, like getting up your doors with some rentals? Like what's the next move there for you?
Okay, cool. So the next move, hopefully it'll get finalized by the next week or so. So I'm actually starting a sub company under this company. And so what I mean subsidiary company under this company. So we technically started this to specialize in tiny homes and container homes. So I've already marketed Alpha Choice Construction as a home renovation / new construction company. So the only way that I can really break into that market, we got 2 tiny homes in progress right now. One is in Fort Worth, the other one's out there in Louisville. So I'm going to basically market a different LLC, and all that LLC would do is specializes in container homes and tiny homes. It'll be called Tiny Living DFW. So coming your way pretty soon.
Hey man, that's hard.
Hey, that's hard. Now what made you go tiny homes versus just your traditional like residential or even multifamily that you were familiar with?
Well, in case y'all didn't notice, man, I bet on myself with everything I do. Like you might as well just call me against the grain, bro, because I go against the grain on everything, bro. Like I take risks, bro. I take chances, man. And tiny homes, you're hearing it from me right now. That's the next wave.
I believe it.
And tiny homes, that's the next wave. It's coming. It's gonna be
huge.
It's gonna be huge before long because you start thinking about affordable living. For young entrepreneurs that's fresh out of college. Affordable living for a house ain't it.
No.
Apartments are barely it now. I mean,
yeah, that's still
Dallas again to a point where
$900, $1,100, $1,200 for a one bedroom.
For a one bedroom, and Lord beholds it, they got to live like somewhere closer to Dallas, Maine. Now they up at $1,400, $1,500.
Yep. You
know what I mean? Where I can build you, a tiny home or container home for probably that price of a whole year's worth. I can build that for you for 20 or 30, but guess what? You own it. And you own it. Airbnb, do whatever you want to do with it.
And I believe.
So you telling me you can build an entire container home for $20 to $30?
Let's
back that up. Now you got to get your land and stuff like that.
Well, no. I just meant the home itself.
The actual home itself. Yeah.
The actual home itself depends on how luxury or how modern that you want it. I would bank on spending about 30 to 40.
And that's still not bad though. Like a new home. And one of the points I wanted to make was one of the things, whenever
it's not bad at all.
Tiny homes hit my radar, it was I forgot who I was talking to, but he was like, hey bro, go to Alibaba and look at these tiny homes. I was like, man, they shipping like the full just pop up and go. So I'm like, oh bro, this shit about to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing small tiny home subdivisions. Like there's like, instead of an RV park, it's a tiny home park.
Yeah.
And it was just so crazy how they was putting these together. I said, man, this shit really is gonna take off. And
yeah, it is. Like I said, as soon as I get this LLC back, make it more legit. We got a couple more planned in February and March, and so I can't give away all the gems on that because some of it is still in progress. But we're definitely looking at developing. There's a couple communities already, but I'm looking at developing one of our first tiny homes community, preferably in one of our neighborhoods where it can be introduced to them for affordable living, because a lot of them don't have affordable living in our neighborhoods where our people.
Hey man, that's hard. What you got, Kelly?
I was just saying that's really, really, really dope. And I kind of want to ask, like, how do you know the renovations for that? Like, how does someone prospect the renovations for a tiny home or a container home? What is
you mean more like price wise, or how do I know the ins and outs?
Like, how does an investor know the price wise for what should they budget out? I know you said 40, but other than that, is there any other costs that may come into play?
Yeah, absolutely. It really just depends on how many players are in the game. A lot of the cost in renovations, new builds, is all based off the investment itself. So, for instance, if I become the if I'm the land developer and the contractor, then guess what? You cut costs by going with me directly versus going through a an investor who now you got to pay that investor who has to pay me. So that investor has to figure out how he's going to pay me and make his money and do what he got to do. The construction game is all about numbers, right? So you got to know, where should I start? Should I start with just a contractor, or should I start with this investment group or this development group who can probably still find me? Like, a lot of them know me here in DFW by now. Um, but it's really just a matter of how many players are in the game versus that price that went from 40,000 now is at, 55,000, because you probably got about 15 grand of interest in palms degrees.
Mm.
I don't get involved in that. I don't need, me, I stay in my lane at that point. I'm like, hey, look, y'all hired me to build this thing. So as far as most of the price goes, man, when you get to doing this for so long, you pretty much know what it's going to cost you to build about 6 or 7 based off me just buying lumber so much and underground plumbing. I have a great relationship with, all of my utility contractors and stuff like that. We sit down and talk about this stuff all the time. So it's not, please believe I ain't just throwing numbers out my ass, whatever, just because, like, this is something that we've been talking about for at least the last 6 months or so. Hey, what is it going to take me to build one? Jimmy, how long is it going to take you to, well, talk to the realtor. How long is it going to take you to sell it? What do we need? Do we need to get 3 of them up to sell it as, a community? So whoever wants to buy them can see that these are like-minded people that are living next to you. It's easier to sell them in the community versus one by one.
Mm. And that's interesting. And I know this is a relatively new concept.
Yeah, it is.
So I kind of want to ask, is there a certain way to factor out the lifetime value of container homes? Because I know with mobile homes are looked at as a depreciating asset because it's a vehicle. It's technically like a vehicle on wheels.
Yeah, technically, that's why it's mobile.
Yeah, but with these tiny homes, is it the same thing? Does it depreciate, appreciate? Will like the price stay the same?
I would say that's the whole purpose of actually doing the community of them. I think if it's standalone, it's going to be pretty tough.
Okay.
Or whatever the case may be, just from my experience. But if it's in a community, it's almost like a residential neighborhood. Like, those things get pretty luxury too.
I saw, man. Like,
they ain't just like no little, what they call it, little barn house, little Red Riding Hood house, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they ain't like that. These things are really, really dope. Like, they're pretty high end. So I don't see it depreciating at all. I think it'll still hold its value pretty good, especially just depends on how modern you make it.
Now, with it being in Texas, with natural disasters such as tornadoes, does that cause a concern with building those?
No, so I still have to follow building codes. I mean, the one that we have now, I still have to follow the standard. I'm still responsible for anything, under 80 mile an hour wind. Anything over 80 mile an hour is basically an act of God, act of nature. But you still have to build them to withstand the acts of the weather. So you can't just use some cheap material and put it up there and say, hey, here you go. No, you still have to have a plan. I still have, a framing plan, a wind bracing plan, all this stuff as if you was building a normal house. So yeah, there's no cutting corners with it as well. Like, if you put it on a slab foundation, mine still get inspected by the city of Fort Worth. They still come out there and inspect the frame, and they're going to inspect the electrical. So it's the same concept as building a traditional home.
Okay. I did want to talk about, as an investor, if I want to get into just say single homes or multifamily homes, and I'm new and I'm looking to rehab something. How do what is the education I need to take to try to figure out the cost for rehab?
Man, so I've worked with brand new investors, actually 2 in the last 3 months, and they've been fairly easy to work with accepting education and knowledge. I would say first thing first, understand that relationships, before you even get to the money part, the relationship is what's going to make or break you. And that's just not relationship with me, your contractor. That's relationship with your lender. If you're doing a hard loan, that's relationship with your financial institution or whatever the case may be. And try to do some pre-education as much as possible. If it's a flip or construction, before you even put money anywhere or even ask for a certain amount of money, sit down with your contractor. Say, hey, look, and be transparent. Say, hey, look, I have this property. It's located here. Do you mind going with me and let me know what you see? Because more than likely, like me, we flip them so much, I can walk in and say, hey man, you may want to get a foundation test done, or hey, you may want to get a geo report done. You got water pulling up on your house, so you probably need to relook at your grading plan outside. Like I can probably tell you why that house is vacant and not, on the market, or why is it run down and nobody wants to touch it. Not saying that it's a bad buy. It just may be something simple as, hey, we need to just do X, Y, and Z, and this property be a good sale.
And I like how you just said that it's not a bad buy, because I know for investors, that's what you want to target. You want to target things that have problems that the average person doesn't want to deal with.
Right.
So when do you know when something is totally problematic? Oh, I shouldn't touch this, versus this is just a challenge that we got to overcome.
It really just depends on your risk versus reward and your return on investment. So I think, to me, I let the facts talk. So it's not about, like, say for instance, take a burnout. Nobody likes to touch burnouts. That's based for y'all that don't know, a burnout is a house that's pretty much been caught on fire.
Okay.
Burnouts are not necessarily a bad buy. You know what I mean? It's really about, hey, okay, let's look at this structure, right? Granted, you're going to disclose that it was a burnout, but if you show where you've corrected all of the burnout issues and put some preventative measures in place, so take all of that cost plus your renovation plus your neighborhood comps of what they sell for. How long does the house stay on market? What's the average days? Is it 80 days? Is it 90 days? Is it 120 days? So really, you want to get your bottom line ROI. And if that bottom line ROI looks like it's worth your time, that's not a bad buy. If you got to put in, $200K just to get, $5,000 in return, that's probably a bad buy.
Yeah, more headache than it's worth.
Yeah, it's more headache than it's worth. So for me, like, I don't just, and I think that's what made me successful at this point, is that I don't follow the norm. Like I deal in facts. I deal with facts, and I let the numbers tell me if this is a bad deal or not. Now, let me be real with y'all. Have I taken some bad deals? Yes. I said, let me put that disclaimer out there first. Like I ain't up here saying that I ain't never had no bad deal of a project.
But that's how you learn to understand,
Yeah.
this was a bad deal versus this was a good deal. You gotta learn by trial and error. A lot of people, they just want to read and watch YouTube videos, but you'll never get that experience unless you actually go try and fuck up.
Yeah, for sure, man. I get people that stop and ask me about entrepreneurship all the time. And what I try to tell them is, ain't no shortcuts in this shit. Like there's no elevator. You gotta take the stairs.
I like that. I like that analogy.
It's gritty. It's not even in construction. It's whatever it is that you want to be. You've got to go to them. You got to go to that mindset with a savage. You got to be a dog in this thing, man. Like you got to understand that there's processes. Right now, my process don't allow me to show up at work, with some Chelsea boots on and a button-down shirt.
Nah, you gotta have that hard hat.
I'm just letting y'all know I'm still in my hard hat and tool belt, but I'm okay with that. I've set my goal for the first 3 to 5 years that I'm gonna be hands-on. I'm gonna be dual-hatted. And I'm okay with that grind right now.
And I like that though, because you know where you're at and where you're headed.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to pivot to what you kind of referred to earlier. Also, your book, my brother.
Oh,
I kind of want to get into your book and some of the things that we were talking about off camera with like that personal development. So I would like to talk on the personal development first, how you were mentioning like your personal development process and how that really just played a role to you.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the book.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things that really has helped me grow, not only just as a business owner, but I would say really just a man, is that I started this routine to help me grow physically, spiritually, and mentally. So like those are the three things that will also impact your journey as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. Physically, like I said, I've really started, taking control back over my health. Shout out to Bravo Fit. Hey, that joke crazy, man. But he get me right though. Shout out to Bravo. Yeah, so definitely have a morning routine. So I realized, be real with yourself. Entrepreneurs, people in general, just be real with yourself. For me, my first step was I always told myself I didn't have time. That's a lie.
Mm.
You have time. It's just gonna be at some uncomfortable times, but you have time. I looked at, okay, what's realistic? I'm gonna go at 7 p.m. No, you're not. You lying to yourself. You know you ain't going at 7 p.m. The way that my schedule works,
You tired then.
you
wore out.
You wore out. So I'm not going at 7 p.m. But when I looked at my schedule, what's typically when I'm out the door going to work? Like when am I on the first project? 8 o'clock. Okay, start from the time you go to work your way backwards. What time do you normally get up? What time you have to be at the door? 7 o'clock. Okay. You need to work out before 7 o'clock.
Mm.
It's that sacrifice.
Mm.
So every day, 6 a.m., you know, I'm where Bravo Fit at, and we getting this fitness thing in. You know what I mean? It's a journey. It's part of the grind. And the reason why I say, you know, I have him is because you also got to be real with yourself. Are you strong enough to do it on your own, Jimmy? I was not. I would be tempted to literally, and I'm just being real with y'all, like, because I want to see the best for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I ain't strong enough to wake up on my own and just create my own workout plan. And I'm going to hit the snooze button and I'm just going to get up and go to work. But having that sense of accountability, and that's the thing, don't be afraid of accountability.
Mm.
That's what you, be real with yourself.
That's what you need.
That's what you need. You need fitness accountability.
And I like how you said that though, like just being real and knowing where you're not strong
Where
at.
you're not strong at. Be real with yourself.
And you just got to supplement and
Yeah.
add into where you're not strong at.
Yeah, and then for the mental, I definitely been on my mental fitness as well, was like self-development. You know, I've started to make sure that I try to at least read a book a month. You know, my book this month is called The Rational Male. Definitely go check it out. I won't spoil it for you. It's a really good book, especially for young Black men. I mean, it'll definitely help you out with like rational thinking about just everything from relationships to spiritual to like just day-to-day life. I mean, it's a really good book. So that's part of my self-development. And if you're not strong in that category, I'm going to embarrass myself and tell y'all, I read all day long, but I don't like to read for myself. So this was almost new to me. And I just be real with myself. Hey, look, man, you know, a chapter is about 12 pages. Can you really read that every night? I could, but I don't want to. Mm-hmm. So start where it's not painful for you, so it gets comfortable. You know, read 2-3 pages. You know, if the book get good, read 4-5 pages a night. But in order for you to get into routine and habits, you have to start. And then spiritually, you know, I ain't no preacher or nothing like that, but that was another part that is really successful, you know, for me, is that if you don't have God in your plans and in your business, it won't work.
Message.
I paused on that one. Because a lot of people don't like to talk about that piece.
Nah, but
it's, if he ain't a part of it, it won't work. All them cold nights in that RV, boy, I was on my hands and knees praying with a hot cup of ramen noodles, boy. Hey, look, you had to put the ramen noodles in the microwave, boy. Man, boy, that shit hot. They hit different than they had to put that thing in on the stove top.
Let me tell you how bad I had. I had
that propane. Had to put that thing in that microwave because it was electric.
Bro, I remember I had got to a point. I was using the coffee pot, bro. I'm letting just the warm water drop into the noodles, my brother. Like for real,
that's
but
a different type of hot now.
But
boy.
Like that's what it had took.
Yeah. You know you broke when you got to drink the noodle juice, bro.
Yeah,
as part of the meal.
Yeah.
That's when
you feel full after that juice top it off.
You know what I'm talking about, man. Hey, y'all disregard us. Hey, that just let this brother know, man. He know what the struggle was like, man. You know,
but for real,
eating that warm ramen noodle soup, boy. That hey, that was a good time, man. But stuff like that definitely keeps me humble, though.
I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.